we spoke to thousands of students through the year.
Mm-hmm.
Literally thousands.
Right.
We counseled, I've forgotten how many. And at the end of the year, and when we looked at how many students we do, you wouldn't believe it. We did one. Just one. I know there's always a question about what happens if my visa gets refused. I think it's probably the first 3 months are always the most critical. It probably defines how well you're going to settle and how well you're able to get out of that experience. The number of seats, in our quality institutions hasn't kept pace with this growing population.
Hello aspirants, I am excited to sit down with Suneet Singh Kochar, the CEO of Fateh Education. He has been a leader in the study abroad space for nearly 2 decades now. With an IIM Kolkata background and a passion for guiding students, Suneet has guided thousands of Indian students to achieve their dreams in UK and Ireland. Today, I will ask him how Fateh Education has changed the student counseling and what advice he has for you.
Hello, hi Suneet.
Hi Aman, how are you?
Doing good. What about you?
All well, thank you so much.
First of all, thanks a lot for agreeing to do this. I'm sure the students who are planning their abroad journey are going to get a lot of benefit out of this. So I hope this next 30 minutes, 45 minutes going to be helpful for a lot many students.
I'm sure it will be.
Right. Suneet, so many questions I have in mind. The first question I wanted to understand from you, who's a person who has been running Fateh Education for more than 20 years now. When you initially started Fateh, what was thought process? How were you doing work then? And now, because you have scaled to thousands of students per year now, what has changed? How has been the journey over the years for Fateh Education for you?
Right, Aman. Okay, so it's been a very fascinating journey. Obviously, as you mentioned, a few months back, we turned 20.
Yeah.
Very proud, technically. And you mentioned we're doing thousands, but our journey didn't start with thousands. Our journey started very small. So we, right from day one, we've been very sure about that, how do we kind of help create value for students. So when we started off, we did not try and bring in with any baggage in terms of what people are working. We tried to kind of reinvent or try and think grounds up to see what does the students need. And we tried to build things around it. People we took from day one, they were not from the industry. Our initial lot of staff never came from the industry. And the interesting thing is all of them are with us.
Oh, wow.
So 20 years later, the people who joined the first 3 years or so, almost all of them are with us, still working with us. And that stability has helped because, when the core people believe in your story, you believe in what you want to, it is. And I mentioned that we didn't start with thousands.
Yeah.
And this is a story I've told a few times before.
Okay.
So year one, when we started out, and we went around a lot of places. We attended fairs, and at that time there was a lot of offline thing as well.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of offline activities. We did a lot of online. We were very new in the online space already at that stage, and we spoke to thousands of students through the year. Literally thousands.
Right.
We counseled. I've forgotten how many. And at the end of the year, and when we looked at how many students we do, you wouldn't believe it. We did one. Just one.
Oh, okay.
But the interesting part is not that it was one student. The fact is, he was the brother of our first counselor.
Okay.
So it was our counselor. If she wasn't there, her brother wouldn't be there. We probably might have ended with 0. Right? So that one was psychologically very important because it told us that we're doing well. To that fact, it was a counselor's brother. It also gave me more confidence because she was seeing us day in and day out how we're thinking. So we knew we are on the right track because if somebody who is following you so closely can trust you with her own brother,
right?
You are on the right track. And I think that really was a big confidence. And I think we grew from there on. We kept growing and we building further on it. We've never been we've been very clear about how we want to grow. We've never about, as a company, we've never been about numbers. We've never been about, okay, can we double our students next year? Can we do it 3 times? Everything. We've always been around, okay, how do we add more satisfaction? Growth has happened because of a focus for students. But when in our office, we rarely discuss numbers. We keep discussing is student journey. And that is one of the reasons why we feel we have succeeded. Maybe it's possible that we might have been somewhere ahead in terms of numbers we do, but it is more satisfying where we are because, with every student, you're taking some extra care around it. there is extra effort around it. So second question of part of your question, which you said, how has this changed and evolved over the last 20 years? I think it's obviously the business is, if you go back 20 years ago, internet was still in its infancy. You know, the general issue which students had was, I would say, at our advantage was information arbitrage. There was a lack of information available. You know, if you had to write to a university, emails were not very prominent either. You had to fax them. Sometimes, you know, you'll have to request them. They would courier prospectuses to us, which would take a few days. The offer letters used to be sent by post. So all of that was there, because what that was creating was information asymmetry. That arbitrage, the students were here because they did not know enough. They didn't know who to trust, where to go. So that is what we were trying to bridge the gap. And over the years, as internet has become more and more powerful, there is no longer the information asymmetry. It is no longer students don't have access to it. The problem now is they have too much of it. You know, and they don't know what to trust. You know, so as much as there's good information in it, there is also a lot of misleading information in it as well. So they want to know, who should I trust? What should I trust? So that is something we saw change, let's say 5-7 years ago. Now what the question which is also now coming in is, they're getting more confident about, we can navigate. We know exactly who to trust, what not to. Specifically with social media, they feel they can. You know, they can connect to peer, be able to get more this thing. But the question they're now facing is, what are the questions we should be asking? That has changed, because, you know, and we look at how ChatGPT and things are coming in. I think it's now coming into the fact is, you know, as I say, there are no right or wrong answers. There are only wrong questions. And I think the students want to know, are they asking the right questions? So that's been the journey over the last 20 years, is how students are even looking at us, from giving them information to helping them navigate the information to actually now telling us, what should I ask?
Makes sense. So obviously the students who are planning to study abroad today are more informed than any other batch of the students that we have had in the past. But what you correctly pointed out that, asking the right question, because I have seen many students, they just approach, let's say, some consultancy, some player, and just go, I want to go to Canada, and probably they are promising offer letter in a 1 day or 2 day timeline, and they're not asking that right question that, will this course help me achieve my goals? Or even, in fact, many of the students are not doing introspection around that, what is my goal? Why am I going? Many students are maybe looking at it as an exit option itself. So, Suneet, has there been any specific country where you have been focusing more comparatively? Or what is sort of distribution around where you're sending many students to?
Aman, we've currently totally focused towards UK and Ireland.
We've
not done another third country yet. That also is possibly to do with the policy that we need to be very clear about what we're promoting. We don't want to give incorrect information until we master it. We don't bring it to a student. So I'm not saying we will never add another country. We will at some point in time add another destination. But at this stage, we are very, very focused towards UK and Ireland. Ireland, we built the market in India, because when we started on Ireland, nobody did it. So we kind of popularized it in India, but I think it was a very wise thing we did, because students have been exceptionally happy over there in terms of employment and everything else. And UK, again, we're doing fantastically well for that matter.
Right. I actually really appreciate this, that you have focused a couple of countries and went deep. I see again many players starting all the countries and going haywire around student experience. So I really appreciate it. So specifically for UK as a destination, there has been a lot of talk around visa policy changes. Early in the year, there were changes around, you cannot bring dependent if you are not doing PhD. Or there were increase in the wage requirement for graduate route visa and all of that. So how do you see those policies impacting the Indian students, and what are your views around, what's going to happen next? Where is this India-UK relationship in terms of sending Indian students going to abroad? How that is going to pan out?
See, obviously, the last few months haven't been very positive from the UK side of it. There were elections, where there were elections in July. And, when you headed to July, there was obviously an issue, which is immigration was an issue at the elections. And why you need to understand is that when the government over there was saying that the visas were being misused, it was not that they weren't being misused. We all know there was a bit of misuse which was happening. But instead of using a surgeon's knife, there was a need to show more, and there was almost a use of a sledgehammer. Fortunately for us, that didn't happen. Okay, but we did see them talk down the market a lot. Through there were fewer steps taken, but there were a lot more talk down of the market, which kind of created uncertainty in the mind of the students. And that did mean a lot of students decided not to go or postpone their plans for a while. Thankfully, since July, after the new government has come in, they've been exceptionally positive. The new education secretary at multiple forums has talked about that international students are welcome. They will take all steps to ensure students get a good experience in UK. Yes, they said they will be looking at ensuring there is no going to be a misuse of it, but the messaging has been very positive. And I think that's excellent, because it does seem a genuine attempt to kind of repair what was damaged in the last 1 year. And I would reckon that, give it another 3 to 6 months, you would see some positive steps coming in as well. So, and you would probably see more focus around it, because, even you look at the campaign time, this government was very clear that it's not about just bringing in more students. You need to ensure they're actually getting the right kind of students, and those students actually contribute back to the economy, which means ensuring they have a better chances of getting employment and everything else around it. If they live up to what they're promising, then I think that's going to be fantastic for Indian students.
Makes sense. So you're saying that the future outlook is positive for UK.
And we have an FTA which is coming up,
Right.
And with the government wanting, both governments wanting an FTA, we're all hoping, this Diwali it'll happen. Obviously, many Diwalis afterwards, Boris Johnson mentioned. Right. But I think that FTA should also help things open up for Indian students generally.
Right, makes sense. So for UK as the destination, obviously anybody who plans to study abroad, they first think, okay, hey, which country should I go to? Probably that is the first decision that they take after talking to maybe a couple of counselors or doing some research. So UK is an ideal destination for which kind of student? Like, who should say that, okay, hey, for me, the ideal destination is UK?
Okay, so that's a good question. Who is UK, for what kind of student does UK suit?
Yeah.
See, personally, I feel there are two aspects you need to look at. One is, what are you really targeting? In terms of, if you have a specific sector, industry, there are certain sectors UK is brilliant with. You have industry around it, easy to kind of build it. And there'll be sectors you like, UK doesn't have the industry. If you try and pick something up over there, you may not find the most cutting edge research happening there. You may not find employment opportunities there, maybe not as much networking opportunities as well. So I think you kind of have to evaluate. It's not just about UK. Be it any country, you really have to evaluate, is that country for you? Does it have it? And two, when you're comparing, you need to compare universities to universities rather than country to country, because apples to apples,
Obviously.
You could say, oh, that country B is better, but you're probably going to a very low rank university over there. So that's the second part. The third aspect of it is obviously the finance.
Okay.
And I think that's probably one of the most important aspects, because see, if you look at students, all of these students are looking at building a career, right? And that's the end goal. And if that is the end goal, you need to maximize that.
Yeah.
What happens is, when you have not planned your finances, you don't know where it is going to be. Your emphasis during your study period is totally on how do I shore it up.
Yeah.
And that takes away a focus either from your studies or from your process of applying for a final job. Either of it is disastrous for you. You lose focus on what you were really there for. And sometimes this suddenly becomes an urgency to kind of do part-time work even during time where you shouldn't be doing. Closer to exams and things like these. And that's where things start to sour off. So my suggestion is, when people say, should I be looking at UK? Obviously, UK is not the most expensive country. It's much cheaper than, let's say, other countries like USA or Australia. It's going to be cheaper than that. But again, the thing with that is that you need to be sure, can you afford it? And if you're funding it, how are you funding it? You don't want to put your family into financial peril. Just for your gain, you can't put your entire family into financial peril. I think all of those factors are very critical when you choose, should you choose UK?
Makes sense. So obviously, one of the thing and one of the question that every student has when they go abroad is, okay, what are the job scenarios out there? People want to understand that. Ultimately, they are putting a lot of money either by taking education loan or even their own self-financing. So what do you think? How is the job prospects out there? Are students able to get the right jobs, putting in the efforts or not?
Okay. See, I'll tell you, are there job opportunities in UK? Yes. Are there plenty of them? I think there are plenty of them.
Okay.
But are there job opportunities for everybody? No. And that's one has to be very clear about it. Okay, you need to see, when you're choosing these, and we talked about a little earlier about, seeing where the industry is. So sometimes you end up students ending up doing courses where there is no industry. When there is no industry, you're not going to get a job.
Right.
Second, also happens is you end up making courses which are not really your comfort zone. You do it because your friends and family and everybody's saying that's what's trending. You could probably go and do that, but you may not actually find it because it's not vibing for you. You realize when you go for interviews, you're not able to clear them either. You're not prepared for them either, but there are opportunities. Only thing is, what you need to be very sure about is that UK is different from how it operates in India. There is no spoon feeding. There is no on-campus placement. It never will be. Their concept is very simple. You need to be working for your own self. You need to be going out networking with the industry, finding a place around it and being able to navigate it. And you can. Again, it is also about trying to understand is my skills. There's certain skills which could be in short supply. So if you're applying, looking for those, you have a much higher chance. And yet there are some courses where you would look that there is no short supply, which means you would need to fight harder for it. It doesn't mean you don't get jobs. It just means that you need to be prepared to kind of dig in and be ready for a big fight on that matter and be ready for rejections. It's not going to happen immediately. There are things where you would need to, it's just like, certain jobs you want to apply, you won't even fit into it. Let's say somebody is doing marketing and says like in India, let's say you could get somebody from Harvard and come to India and say, please serve to the village, the village washing women over there. They wouldn't be able to do that. They don't understand. So similarly, it works the other side as well. There could be some positions you're aiming for, which you may not qualify for, not because of your degree doesn't match, or just that you don't have academic record behind it, just that you're not ready for it.
Makes sense. So in a way, you should be clear while you are planning your abroad education that, okay, hey, what skill I want to get out of this course, and that skill should align with sort of what kind of jobs that you want to do. And you will be best positioned to get a job after that if you do this exercise during the course finalization and beyond processes. Makes sense. Now, for UK specifically, we keep hearing about visa rules, right? Because we around 30-35% of the students whom we are helping for education loans are specifically for UK. And then there are so many concerns around that, okay, hey, this lender's education loan sanction letter won't be accepted, or we need money in the account. So would you put some light on the visa processes in general, and also from the financial perspective that, okay, hey, what exactly is the embassy wants to look at, and what can students do to maximize their chances of getting a UK visa for studying abroad?
Okay, in fact, I'll tell you, UK probably has the most streamlined visa processes across most of the major study destinations. One of the key requirements, obviously, is going to be finances, and they should be looking at it. You need to understand how any of the embassy looks at is they want to be sure that when you're going there, you will not become dependent on the government to cover for your expenses. And each of them have built a process to ensure you have financial worthiness around it. So UK is pretty straightforward in terms of they mentioned the amount of, they exactly defined what you need to show. So, it is clear that you need to be first year's of fee plus a certain level of for your living expenses, which is defined where are you staying with. Are you staying outside central London, or are you staying within central London? And that will vary. They clearly mentioned that that what exchange rate they're going to be using. So all of that is well defined around it. Okay, so you know exactly what you need to show, how much you need to demonstrate to the government. Then comes in what form do you need to demonstrate it. Even that is to a large extent is already given, that you need to be, it could be in your savings account, could be in a fixed deposit, could be in a bank loan. It can be in either the student's name or could be in the parent's name where they have a birth certificate. It has to be maintained for 28 days is what we know, all of it. But to your question is, we talked about which financial institutions will be accepted on that. They used to be, if I go back 5 years ago, there used to be a positive list and a negative, where you say, if you're not on the list, you will not be accepted. Prior to that, there was a negative list around it as well. These institutions will not be accepted. Now they have made it a lot clearer to say that anything which is on the RBI accepted list is okay with us. So if you're registered or regulated by RBI, it is fine. If you're not regulated by RBI, it is not.
So in general, obviously banks are regulated, and even the NBFCs. So even NBFCs loan sanction letter acceptable for UK visa as of today?
See, and that's the interesting part, because if they're regulated by RBI, because not all NBFCs are being regulated. You might be registered, but you may not be regulated. The ones which come under regulatory this thing are acceptable. So we've seen many of them are. So the likes of Credila for one, we know that is acceptable. The visa office has been been granting visas without problem, but not all NBFCs are going to be it. And it is obviously makes sense to be careful about it. Where you cannot use the loan letters directly, it is advisable to have the loan disbursed into your account, hold it for 28 days, and then apply for visa, or use that loan to pay off the university fees and show it at this thing. I know there's always a question about what happens if my visa gets refused. So the thing is, most of the credible universities, in fact, all of the credible universities will refund your money in case your visa is refused. Only thing you need to be clear about is, while let's say you pay in pounds, you're going to get back in pounds. You're still taking the exchange rate risk. So you're paying at 100. If it becomes 105, you actually might have made money. Nobody wants to make money through refusal, but the fact you might have. But it's dropped, you lose money on that as well. So you may not get the exact rupees you spent, but you will definitely get back the exact pounds you've sent.
Makes sense. So now once the visa is clear, obviously there are two aspects after that. One is before flying out and after flying in the country. So what are the preparations that the students can do at their end so that they get the maximum or they can do this transition smoothly? So what they can do, they should really do before flying out here in India, and what should they do for the first 2-3 months after reaching out there, so that the transition is smooth and they are able to focus on their goal?
Oh, obviously, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's probably the first 3 months are always the most critical. It probably defines how well you're going to settle and how well you're able to get out of that experience. Because the first 3 months is where you are trying to settle in. If you come in prepared, you hit the ground running, you're able to maximize what you will get out of it, specifically the master's level where it's a 1-year course, So what should you do beforehand, and what should you be looking at doing it? So one is, of course, you need to close your accommodation before you go. 2, we talked about employment. Remember, these are 1-year courses. You need to go be prepared before you go. You need to be knowing which companies you'll be targeting. What is the kind of profile of people they're looking for. Then you look at your own resume and see, do I fit those? What is it in my resume which is missing? And then you start working on the ideas, how do I fill those gaps? If those are the holes, and there's nothing better that you already know it, right? Than to apply and then be rejected. You rather do your research and know where your gaps are, and you can fill this up. And so we suggest people to do that analysis, identify your top 20 companies or 30 companies you'd like to apply for, look for each of them, look for what are those common things you can build around, which makes your profile stronger. You should then start looking for networking opportunities. What kind of other industry events which happen, you need to be prepared for that. 3, you should look for is, because there's some companies which have a graduate recruitment programs. And that, a mistake some students do is they assume it is based around their academic year, The companies don't build it around academics year, they build it around their requirements. And we know some companies which as early as November, they will start accepting applications for it, while it might take a 4-month, 5-month process. So if a student who's not got prepared when he joined in September and October, he's probably not even there that November there's something to be to be submitted. And you probably missed the deadline, you missed the entire year, So that one preparation I would say is for the employment. Second, I also suggest is start planning finances, because again, I said, if I'm going to be spending my time trying to maximize my opportunities for finding employment, and I also know I'm going to be spending at least 40 to 50 hours, maybe even 60 hours a week on studies, so where am I going to get, I need to be ensure that I'm not thinking about my finances at that stage. You should be very clear about what you're going to be spending, where it is, that budgeting helps many students around it. The problem happens is students know what they're going to spend for the year. That's what they realize where it is, but they've gone in without thinking how they're going to spend it. And they end up spending 30 to 40% more. So the moment they start seeing that they're spending more, they start panicking. And that time which should have gone towards their final employment is gone towards financial planning. So, and that's going to be done before going.
Actually, that's a very interesting take, that once you have accepted and you have got the visa, after that, spend your time in connecting with the alumni who are currently studying there or have graduated. What kind of companies are they working in? Maybe ask for the resumes and try to find out, okay, hey, what can I add? Can I add this thing in my resume? And also the financial point you touched upon. And this is something that I know, because a lot many students whom we have helped getting the loans, they come up within 6 months or 12-month timeline that, okay, can you do a top-up loan? I need 5 lakh rupees more, I need 10 lakh rupees more. And there are two functions. One is that lack of financial planning, where they are not sure that they know that I have 40 lakh rupees to spend or 30 lakh rupees to spend, and they end up spending a lot. And second, the currency fluctuations. So they have planned for, let's say, this currency rate, but as we know that the currency fluctuates a lot, specifically against Indian rupees. The Indian rupee get sort of inflated over the period of time. So that's that.
Oh, it's actually very true. In fact, that's something which people ask us. Rupee is by default a depreciating currency. And over a period of time, the money, it will go down,
Yeah.
So what our suggestion people ask us is the university giving us 3 installments or 6 installments. And I tell them is that you should not look at how many installments the university is giving. I said, if you're getting a good rate, look at paying your entire fees, because what you save on interest is more than probably what you paid in interest is much less than what you would have lost in exchange rates. And every year you will find there will be times during the year when it comes in when the rate is low, and it historically those are the times when the prices rupee is stronger. I would say, I tell people, make use of it. Don't wait for your deadline. At least get it moved and keep it over there for that matter. And I think that's what financial planning is. When you start analyzing and identifying these, you realize you save money on these things.
Yeah, makes sense. In fact, we keep saying it to our users at Gyandan that, okay, the 1% that you're saving on a loan in interest, you end up saving 3 to 4 lakh rupees in interest in the 5-7 year. Use that money to give a car to your parents other than giving it to the lenders.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize how the interest rates work for that matter as well. You can sometimes feel you are paying more, but you may not be. And sometimes you feel you're not paying much, but you're paying a lot. And I think that's where financial planning is. When they start realizing this, it's much easier.
Makes sense. Suneet, so over the years, the number of students who are going abroad has increased multifold. When we started out in 2016, 3 and 3.5 lakh students used to go abroad, and now it's close to 9 lakhs or so. So why do you think why more number of students are going abroad, and do you think this trend is going to be there? I have read reports around this number reaching 20 lakh, 25 lakh by as early as 2027 or 2030.
Well, I've read those reports as well. I would take them with a little bit of pinch of salt. When I say a little bit of pinch of salt, I'm only using a little bit. I'm not saying too much, because I do see this market growing. Okay, and I do see it growing strongly. One of the things is, what you need to understand is, where are we in the economic cycle? So we, as a country, we started on the economic liberalization in 1992.
Yeah.
So the generation, which is my generation, who kind of grew through this boom, our kids have either just come in, or in the next 5-10 years, this generation kids are going to come into the system. We are the first generation which have reaped the benefits of liberalization. We are the ones who've seen how the world is, and we always have a lot more, I would say, aspirations around this thing, because we feel we can achieve. We've achieved it, our kids can achieve it as well. So there is that hunger to ensure our kids are also there. There is affluence which is coming in. The economy is doing well. We know that the economy is doing well. So there is obviously there is both the need, because you want to give your kids the best. 2, you have the affluence to do that as well right now. So that is only going to go up with every year. We don't see that coming down. I think everything. 2, simultaneously, what has happened is that the number of seats, in our quality institutions hasn't kept pace with this growing population. So we have had more institutions and more quality seats coming in, but not at the pace where it is, because if you go back 20 years ago, the emphasis on education was lesser than what it is today, because and that has only go up with every year. I feel the NEP is a step in the right direction. It is a fantastic idea. I think over a period of time that will help if we can follow through with that and create it. But it takes a while to do it. So filling up those gaps, I think it's going to take a while until those gaps are filled, and I think that's at least a couple of decades away. Where we will be in a position to kind of fulfill it at our end. Until then, I see the demand going up. I see a parallel in China. China started this 20 years ago. Now we can see the dip from them coming in, because they can fulfill the demand from within the country. So same thing is now we are embarking on the same journey. We could probably reach there in 15. We may get there in 25. But even in China, while they have, it's not that they have kind of the students have stopped going altogether. Just that the growth has stopped and it's probably started to go down a bit. So I do think the next 10-15 years the industry will continue to grow. How fast? Anybody's guess.
Yeah.
I don't buy the 2 million by 2027.
So Suneet, what's next for Fateh Education? How do you see the journey of Fateh Education go on from here?
Okay, see, I'll tell you, like any company, we would obviously want to continue to grow. And we've obviously now in 9 cities. So at the top level, obviously looking at adding more cities to it. 2, I think at some point we will add another destination. Okay, when it's hard to say, but we will. But 3, I think what's also been very important for us is how do we keep upskilling a team? You know, the last year and a half, the key focus has been how do we bring our team up to point. We've kind of built up a knowledge center. It's a 16-member team.
Okay.
Who are all the time, their role is to kind of keep researching and training. Even today, as we speak, we have 16 people from India which have come in, which are going through training today. It's a 1-week-long training.
Okay.
So they're doing it 10 to 6:30. It's going to run for a week.
Okay.
It's the people from all over.
Wow.
And similarly, we have a continuous training which is happening every morning between 10 and 11. A good number of them attend for that matter, which is compulsory. So we've been kind of, if you ask me, we're kind of seeing is because we look at student journey. We're now trying to see what else can we add to value to a student journey. How do we upskill ourselves to be able to create value for a student? So that is our priority in the last 18 months. And I think the next 12 months, we're going to continue seeing a more emphasis on that.
Okay.
Yes, in the longer run, I said, if you're looking from a pure commercial side, we are looking at adding more cities. We're definitely looking at adding more destinations. But we'll take a time on that.
Right. We wish that Fateh Education grows so that our partnership also grows along with that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So just before ending it, Suneet, what's your couple of advice for the students who are flying maybe this year or the next intake? What's your advice for them?
My simple advice to them is if they've got a fantastic opportunity, they should make the best use of it. The parents specifically, I think they should be fairly, I would say they should be very thankful to the parents. Not just that, because they will realize for that 1 year or 3 year, whatever the course they're going in for, the parents are going to alter their lifestyle for the next 10 years. And given what is at stake over here, I would say they need to ensure they maximize this. So while there will be a lot of freedom and a lot of new things and everything else, they shouldn't take the focus away from what they're aiming for. You should go in, that's my objective, that's my goal, I have to achieve it.
Okay. Yeah. Focus on your goal.
Absolutely.
And, it's going to be a great journey.
Absolutely. I'm sure they will have a great journey.
Thanks Suneet for doing this. It was really wonderful talking to you. I learned a lot, and I'm sure all the students and industry stakeholders who are watching this would have learned a lot as well.
Thank you so much.
A lot. Yeah.
Thank you, Amit.
Thank you.